Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. I've really only dabbled in the realm of indie RPGs. I've played the biggest in the past decade or so, your Undertales and your Chained Echoes and all that. But it turns out there's an enormous wealth of indie RPGs that are either currently available or coming soon, and I wanted to talk about one of them today, one I only recently became aware of. Aegis Force, the Scorian War is a 2D sprites on 3D backgrounds tactical RPG with a visual style that scratches that nostalgic itch I get pretty frequently. In fact, I get that nostalgic itch so often, you might call it a nostalgic rash. I should probably have a doctor look at that. But more on the look later. First of all, let's talk about the story. Now, I've only played the demo, which you can currently download on Steam at your leisure, so maybe definitely go do that. My point is, I don't know a ton about the overall story yet. But here's the setup. The two countries of Genoa and Tourmaine have been fighting each other for 100 years. Meaning, of course, that nobody alive today was even there to see what caused all the fighting to begin with. One country is big into magic and the other is big into advanced technology. And both of them are really big into wiping the other off the face of the planet. Our main characters are Callan Roth, Orvis Magnarik, and Vedette Cairn. They've got a lot of charming dialogue with each other, or I should say Callan and Orvis do in the demo. I haven't gotten a chance to meet Vedette yet, but from the way they talk about her, it seems pretty obvious they all have a really solid relationship. While I'm talking about the characters, I think it's a good time to talk about the writing. I was so pleasantly surprised to see how good the writing is in the demo. Witty dialogue, outright funny moments, and a story that's not afraid to take a quick heel turn into something dark and serious at a moment's notice. It's actually top tier writing. To reiterate, I've only seen a tiny sliver of what is going to be a 30-hour experience, so take that for what it is, but the demo does a good job of putting the game's best foot forward, especially in the case of the writing. From the bits of story that I've been able to experience, it's pretty clear it's going to go to some heavy places. Seeing the competency of the writing makes me confident they'll be able to pull it off. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in the pixel era, like I'm sure some of you watching did. And if you're anything like me, you get bitten by the nostalgia bug every time you see a screenshot from Final Fantasy Tactics or Chrono Trigger. It's hard to explain why that is, especially to anyone who doesn't have the same background, but pixelated RPG characters just hit harder, don't they? Anyway, that's the first thing you'll notice about Aegis Force. I mean, yeah, obviously the graphics are the first thing you'll notice about any game, but you know what I mean. There's such a powerful charm to the way the world and characters are presented in this game. I think the preferred term for this might be 2.5D, which is fine, but I just think of it as being in the style of a PlayStation 1 RPG. And that's a good thing, especially when you consider this developer was able to learn from the mistakes of classics like Xenogears and set the camera angle low enough that you can actually see where you're going. That's another thing that might be somewhat surprising if you play a lot of tactical RPGs. This game is completely free roaming. I don't mean like open world or whatever, just that in between fights, you're free to run around and explore the area, talk to people, that kind of stuff. As someone who's never been big on the battle story menu rhythm of a lot of strategy RPGs, this is a really welcome setup. The music I was able to hear is fantastic too. The battle themes are appropriately epic in particular. In the demo, you'll have a few battles that are a bit lower key, just some low-level trash enemies, and the music is subdued but tense. But subsequent battles get more and more exciting, and the music rises in tone and style to match. It would have been so easy to just write one battle theme, and I might not have had anything negative to say about that, but they went the extra mile with the music that I've heard, and it's very good. Okay, I've talked a lot about the aesthetics, which are extremely important to me, but the other extremely important thing in any tactical RPG is the combat, so let's get into it. The first thing I noticed and liked in the combat is the fact that while it's entirely grid-based like you'd expect, it still offers completely free movement, at least within your range of motion, meaning you're not locked to grid squares as you make your way around the map. I know that this doesn't actually impact the gameplay in a super meaningful way, but the way it feels is very important to me, and the way it feels is very good. The combat scenarios I found myself in were mostly very straightforward fights, with the exception of the demo's big boss fight, which I'll get to in a minute. There's a turn order on screen, you can see when everyone's going, and when it's your character's turn, you move them where you want. Right? Standard. Attacking an enemy from behind gives you a damage boost. Another small thing that I really appreciate. A lot of strategy RPGs don't make rear attacks feel particularly meaningful, even if there is some behind the scenes numbers changing to make like the attack more likely to land from behind. But again, it's the feel of it. I know I'm doing more damage from behind because I can see I'm doing more damage from behind. it's instant and obvious gratification. You'll have a variety of special moves in the final version, I assume, but Callan only has one basic attack and one special attack in the demo. Orvis, on the other hand, is the resident magician, so he has access to an attack spell and a healing spell. Like I said, this is a demo, so the fights are pretty straightforward. The boss fight near the end amps things up by introducing A, more enemies at once, and B, a giant freaking monster guy that takes a ton of punishment before he'll go down. One thing in particular that I enjoy about the combat here is just how lightweight it feels. Let me try and explain what I mean. I don't mean simplistic, just that it's not bogged down with layers upon layers of menus. You choose your action, you perform it. Getting into a battle and then back out of a battle flows very smoothly too, which goes a long way toward making the whole presentation feel very cohesive. Not only that, but I also appreciate that not every battle feels like it has to be the grandest, most expansive battle you've ever seen. Games like Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre revel in those sorts of massive battles, and there's definitely a place for them, but I love that there seem to be various battle types in Aegis Force. I'll be very curious to see how it plays when more characters get added to the mix. I've heard there are more than 15 who ultimately join the party, so I expect we'll see a good amount of variety. Despite the big graphical difference, I felt a lot of Shining Force influence here, which I am very here for. From the ability to walk around between battles to the combat interface itself, I would be very surprised if there weren't some Shining Force fans on the team making this game. Considering Shining Force is my favorite strategy RPG series, maybe it's not shocking that I enjoyed this as much as I did. But what it does better than Shining Force, at least in the demo, is the character development and interactions. Even in the demo, you really get a sense for who Callan and Orvis are and what their relationship is like. It feels like it's merging the sort of gameplay loop I like from Shining Force with the sort of character stories I prefer in other types of RPGs. That's basically a match made in heaven as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, this is a short demo, so you really have nothing to lose if you grab it from Steam and give it a shot. If you're anything like me, I think giving a bit of your time to it here will get you hyped for the final release just like it did for me. If you've played the demo, let me know down in the comments what you think. Now, before I sign off, I wanted to talk about something that I think is pretty important. Originally, this video was going to be sponsored with payment from the developer to help promote the game. I say originally because ultimately I decided not to take any money from them to make it. Now, please understand, I don't have any moral objections to sponsored content at all. It's part of just about every creative industry, and for a lot of people, it's absolutely necessary for them to make a living. And I wholeheartedly believe it's possible to make a sponsored video in a responsible and ethical way that is transparent and truthful, while also still essentially functioning as an advertisement. So don't misconstrue my point, is what I'm saying. Basically, I decided that at this point in my YouTube career, can I call it that? Usually in a career you make money, you don't go into debt for it, so maybe career is wrong. I'll say YouTube journey. Yeah, that's nice, YouTube journey. But anyway, at this point in my YouTube journey, I want to make sure I build an audience that understands how I think, what I like, and who I am, to the extent you're able to from watching my videos and following me on social media or whatever. I don't want to introduce any outside elements that might muddy the waters before you really get a sense for those things. At some point, I might very well do a sponsored video. If I do, you'll know it because I'll label it correctly and I will tell you within the first 30 seconds of the video that it's sponsored. So you can then decide if you want to watch it and how much weight you want to give to what I had to say if you do. Anyway, that's all. Just wanted to throw that out there. If you are interested in supporting the channel, I do have YouTube memberships available. We have a Discord where it's fun to hang out. It's great chatting with the people in there. I really appreciate the members that I have right now. And I would love it if you consider joining. That would be fantastic. It would mean a lot to me. But just watching the videos is more than enough for me. You guys are all incredible. Thank you so much again for watching, liking, subscribing, doing all the stuff that you do. It really makes my day. Every time I put out a video, I love seeing your comments and I love just seeing people engage with what I'm talking about and sharing interest with me. It's very cool. It's why I wanted to do this whole YouTube thing in the first place. So thanks as always. And until next time, bye.